โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนัมมัสสามิ Blessings to everybody. One of the results that comes about through practicing the Buddhist path, and particularly developing meditation, is that we become more familiar with the qualities of a wholesome state of mind, kusala Dhamma. And at the same time we become aware of what is an unwholesome state of mind, akusala Dhamma. And as we know from listening to the teachings, wholesome states of mind have to be cultivated and developed. Unwholesome states of mind have to be abandoned because they're a source of suffering. What helps in that task is knowing the qualities of wholesome states of mind, becoming familiar with them. So, wholesome states of mind, we say, are brighter. They have the effect to illuminate, brighten our minds. A sort of helping somebody, practicing generosity, the intention to refrain from breaking a precept, bringing up mindfulness, reflecting on the Dhamma to gain wisdom. These all have the qualities of brightening the mind. With that brightening of the mind, illuminating the mind, we also gain some greater steadiness of mind, sense of tranquility, sense of well-being, physical and mental well-being. So the more we practice and the more familiar we become with wholesome states of mind, the easier it is to turn our attention to them, to bring them up, to preserve them and cultivate them, deepen them in our experience. And similarly, as we practice more, the qualities of unwholesome states of mind become clearer to us, and why we have to abandon them becomes clear, because they agitate the mind, and they blemish the mind, they darken the mind. They lead to more delusion, more confusion, and in short, more suffering. So all the effort we put into the practice, we're bringing up these skillful, wholesome states of mind that help us to see the mind itself, see the contents of the mind, to understand what is truly beneficial to us, the wholesome Dhammas, what is harmful to us, what leads to suffering. But we're also developing that ability to look at the mind in a more calm, cool way, so that we know clearly the nature of wholesome dhammas and unwholesome dhammas without creating a lot of self around them, both the good and the not good. So recognizing them more as just qualities of the mind that are either conducive to our happiness and well-being or not. So not making a fuss about them, not getting upset with the unwholesome states when they arise, but just knowing what they are and what they do. Not getting overexcited by the wholesome states or clinging onto them with a sense of self, creating a new sense of I am a good person or superior person, better person, or whatever. So what helps us to do this job is developing mindful awareness in the center of our experience, where we can reflect on the mind, the contents of the mind, with a more detached awareness and understanding, with wisdom, rather than reacting all the time, grasping at those states of mind with a sense of self, or creating a sense of self around them. So most people find over the years that they practice the Buddhist path, they become more familiar with what is good, the causes for what is good to arise in their hearts and minds, in their experience. And the mind will naturally incline more towards the good, that which is conducive to happiness, peace, and understanding. And will shy away from that which is not good. It becomes almost automatic, sort of a part of who one is. They say even the brain will start to remember the patterns of thought, the patterns of intention. So there's some physiological change, maybe in a very subtle way, but even physiologically we can change slightly through the practice of Dhamma, inclining the mind towards the good and shying away from and abandoning the bad. So as we practice and incline towards the good, the mind seems to have this sort of process of awakening, opening up, which is invaluable to us because it helps us to see the truth of things. The unwholesome states of mind, by their nature, they're agitating. Thoughts and mental states rooted in greed, hatred, delusion, they agitate us and they cloud over the truth. So we don't know what leads to what. We often are not aware why we're suffering and how we're suffering, the process by which suffering arises, how craving arises, how clinging and attachment arises, how it leads to suffering. We're just not clear. The more we're under the influence of mental defilements or unwholesome states of mind. But practicing to develop wholesome states of mind has the opposite effect. It brings the mind to the present moment more and more, brings up clarity. So we compare this to say like a flower opening to the sun. The sun is like the effect of the Dhamma, the practice of Dhamma on the mind. And most flowers, they respond to sunlight by opening, blooming. The petals open up, particularly flowers like lilies and lotuses in a pond. The more sunlight they receive, then they open up to the sun. And our minds are like that. They open up to the truth, to that which is good, and benefit, flourish because of that. We're happier. As the mind opens up to the truth more and more, we're experiencing more what you might call good mental health or better mental health. The effects of our Dhamma practice, all this effort we put into keeping precepts, practicing mindfulness, reflecting on Dhamma. It's nourishing the mind. So the mind opens up and we become much, much more aware of the process of karma, cause and effect. And on the deepest level, just to the nature of the mind, that it is something that is subject to causes and conditions. Good causes, good results. Bad causes, bad results. That becomes clearer and clearer. So you might say, we notice more things in our life and in the world as the mind inclines towards good and opens up towards the good, like the lotus opening up to the sun. More is more, with more practice, more awareness, the mind knows and sees so many more things than it used to. I think most people would agree through practicing Dhamma over months, years. At least in some ways, that's their experience. They are learning and knowing new and good things that are helpful to us as human beings. So many people have the experience, they maybe go on a meditation retreat like this and have heard the instructions, putting effort into practicing meditation, mindfulness of breathing, contemplating the Dhamma, contemplating the impermanence, say, of physical and mental experiences. But maybe the first insight they have is something not seemingly related or not immediately obviously related. So many people have the experience they become a little bit more calm and mindful as they're practicing on a retreat. And they start to notice how some of the good things there are in their lives or in the world around them that they perhaps didn't focus on before. So you're doing your mindfulness of breathing practice, maybe for many hours a day, but you're actually noticing people who help you. So if you're in a monastery, people who help out in the monastery, the way people behave in a monastery, the mindfulness and restraint in their speech, their actions, the kindness, the generosity. That might be your immediate awareness of goodness and opening up to goodness, but then you might have memories of people who have helped you and had an important effect on you in your life from the past, from day one when you were born. So quite often parents come into your mind. As the mind inclines towards goodness, you're more aware of how parents have helped you. Or there may be significant relatives, family members, or close friends who have helped you, sometimes in very profound, very important ways in your life, sometimes in smaller ways. But the mind starts to notice these things, both in the present, the situation you're in right now, whether you're at home, wherever you are, but then also from the past, all the people who maybe helped you to get where you are right now in your life. The mind that is inclining towards goodness, developing mindfulness, reflecting on Dhamma, it notices things. It sees cause and effect. It sees causes and conditions arising and how they're affecting us more and more. So the arising of, say, states of mind rooted in gratitude becomes very natural. As we realize we've depended on other people to get to where we are right now, say on this retreat. There's the immediate people, the Sangha, the organizers. If you're at home, there may be family members who are allowing you to do your retreat, giving you that space and time. But then the bigger picture is the gratitude for all the people who have helped us up to this point, from youth, childhood youth, to this point, however old we are. And before that as well. Like today it's Qingming, this day where particularly the Chinese community, but also some others, remember their ancestors with gratitude, make merit for ancestors, go through various ceremonies and rituals, recognizing the relationship we have with our forefathers and mothers, parents, grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-grandparents, and so on. We are dependent and have relied on many, many people over our life. Even day one when we come into the world, our parents, our mother gives us birth, but our mother depended on her mother and father and grandparents and so on. So these kind of festival days or rituals, they do have a purpose, an original purpose, even though sometimes we lose track of that. But they remind us of the fact that we're not alone in the world and we couldn't do everything by ourselves. So this is very much in line with the Dhamma, becoming open to the fact that we've relied on the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, teachers for our Dhamma practice, parents in particular, but then grandparents and great-grandparents as well, and all kinds of people who have supported us directly or indirectly in our life. That awareness kind of becomes clearer the more you practice. And the Buddha pointed out when gratitude arises from a wholesome state of mind, a mind that has a sense of well-being, it's at ease, it's happy in itself, which is the result of our efforts in the practice, the mind has become wholesome. Gratitude arises, and then the next thing is you tend to have the wish to give something back. Gataveti, so gatanu, gataveti, gratitude and the wish to give or support those who have helped us, the recognition of the help that we have received and the wish to do something in response to that is wise and skillful. So a day like Qingming really fits with a meditation retreat, because even though physically we may not be doing much today, we're just sitting and walking and listening to Dhamma, but mentally we may actually be doing ourselves and others an awful lot of good, because we're quite possibly recognizing and remembering, recollecting the good that we've done, the good that others have done, and then sharing the merits, the goodness of our heart back to our families, relatives, and even ancestors, even people you don't know their name or what they look like, but you can assume they were there, your forefathers and mothers, people who have built up your particular family line, built up the place you live, the city, the country you live in, all kinds of people. You can assume they've made sacrifices and done good things just as the current generation are. When your mind is peaceful like that, these kind of insights and recognition of goodness in yourself and others becomes much more natural. And then that wish to pay back, or give something back. So we dedicate merit. After we meditate, we often dedicate merit back. We honor the dead by putting effort into our practice. We honor teachers like that. The Buddha encouraged us to honor the Buddha by practicing the Dhamma. And as we practice the Dhamma and our mind becomes more wholesome, more peaceful, even if only a little bit, going in the right direction, then we're gaining the Dhamma for ourselves. Because the effect of the Dhamma is it illuminates the mind, brings the mind these beneficial qualities that I've been talking about. And they say the greatest gift to give back to others is the Dhamma. Sometimes as meditators, Dhamma practitioners, we misunderstand this. We think, well, in order to give the Dhamma you have to become a monk or a nun and set yourself up as a teacher and give long discourses and explanations of Dhamma, write books about it and so on as the gift of Dhamma. And well, that is part of it, of course. But everything is Dhamma, as Luang Por Chah used to say. So just meditating quietly, making that effort to abandon unwholesome Dhammas, cultivate skillful Dhammas, bring up mindfulness, reflect on the Dhamma to remove some of the mental defilements from your mind. That's a great effort, a great thing to do, and it's Dhamma, and it's a gift to others, because you're improving your state of mind, you're improving your quality of life. It tends to have a good effect on our physical and mental health, improves our quality of life. So then, as we relate back to the world, we're giving them Dhamma, the Dhamma that we've developed through our practice. Maybe you're at home meditating on this retreat. Other people in your household are not on the retreat, not meditating, but maybe they see you already. That's a gift to them, a gift of Dhamma. Seeing one family member meditating, chanting, listening to Dhamma. That can stimulate good things in the minds of others around. Or you tell your friends you're not free for Easter because you're on retreat. That makes them think, oh, that's a good idea. I should do a retreat one day. I should do more meditation. You know, there's these subtle ways that we give back through our practice, and even the practice of meditation, which is very internal, and you're not producing a lot on the outside, but it is actually giving a gift back to the world. You're setting up a peaceful atmosphere, a peaceful space around you in your home, if that's where you are. Other people benefit from that. You're not doing unwholesome, antisocial or harmful things either by keeping precepts, say. People often forget that. There's a lot of unskillful things we could do, but we're not, because we're keeping precepts. And that's also a gift to the world. You're not killing, stealing, getting drunk, telling lies, arguing, abusing others. You're not chasing after other people's partners. Keeping the precepts is a gift back to the world. It's a gift of Dhamma on that level. As you practice, you may gain more faith, and from that wholesome Dhammas arise. You may gain the intention, I want to do more dana in my life, help the Sangha, support good causes, help the poor, the sick, whatever. Those kind of thoughts are nourished by the practice we do. So that can be a gift of Dhamma, the wish to help others and support good causes, good things. And then the understanding you get from this practice, and maybe it's, in the beginning, it's a very humble understanding. It's just the understanding that sometimes you have to be patient with your own mind because it's not always peaceful. Sometimes we are caught up in anger or fear or worry, or lots of obsessive greed, lots of distracted states of mind, or sometimes we're just sleepy. But the understanding that you can practice with all those things, you can be patient with them, you can work with your mind, you can actually get through them and let them go, get beyond them. That's a very valuable insight that humans can have, and you can all have in your meditation retreat. Maybe one day in the future you have a friend or family member doing meditation complaining about their mind that's all over the place and they're not peaceful. And you can give them some Dhamma and you say, oh yeah, I've had exactly the same experience. And you're speaking the truth, and the Dhamma is the truth. So you might not feel like you can give deep explanations of the suttas or the Dhamma, like some of the great teachers, but you can talk about your own experience as truth and share that with others, and that is also the gift of Dhamma, the greatest gift we can give to each other. So the Buddha was encouraging us to see that this process of cause and effect, karma, and just the conditioned nature of our existence is something it's vital to come to an understanding and an awareness of that, and to see that the good efforts we put into our practice are constantly nourishing and providing causes and conditions for more good things to happen, more wholesome states of mind to arise, more wisdom and understanding that will help free us from suffering and maybe even can help others. We are nourishing our practice through the practice. We're nourishing our mind through the practice. We're developing more wisdom and understanding through the practice. And one thing leads to another. So my experience after practicing for a long time, many decades, is that one thing, you get used to the practice, but not necessarily in a bad way. You get used to the practice, so it gets easier. Keeping precepts becomes easier. Practicing mindfulness or understanding how to practice mindfulness, even though it's a difficult quality to bring up, it gets easier because you understand how to do it. You understand why you're doing it more. You understand how to do it. You gain skills in how to apply yourself to the practice. You overcome problems, so those problems disappear little by little. It all gets easier the more you do it and the longer you do it. So you really only got good things to look forward to if you keep practicing. And that's something we have to remind ourselves of while we're meditating and practicing, because we do face a lot of difficulties. There are times when the mind is caught up in its own craving and attachment. We're not peaceful. We're getting upset with ourselves or others. We're tired. We're fed up. All kinds of reactions and moods will come up. So you have to introduce those kind of reflections. See, well, if I keep doing it, even though at this very moment it's difficult, in the long run, it gets easier and I'm taking my mind to a better place. My life is going to improve from this. Another way we talk about it is parami. So we all know, that the 10 paramis, the 10 spiritual perfections that the Buddha completed to become a Buddha on every level. These are spiritual qualities that just sort of describe this process of the mind, all the different qualities that need to be developed, cultivated together to bring the mind to awakening. So doing a retreat like this, you're building parami. It's said so much, it sounds almost like a cliche now, but it's still true, isn't it? So many good qualities are being developed as you practice sitting, walking, meditation, chanting, listening to the Dhamma. You're cultivating the parami, the dana, the renunciation, nikama parami, because you're letting go, renouncing many things, entertainments and distractions and comforts while you're doing the retreat. Practicing patience and endurance, putting forth effort, developing skillful ways to bring up effort and maintain your effort. So it's virya parami. You're developing sila, your skill in keeping sila, discipline of body and mind, abandoning the most sort of coarse, unwholesome ways of action and speech. Developing truthfulness, a love of truth, satya parami, because that's why we're practicing, is to bring our minds to see and understand truth. Developing adhitthana parami, ability to determine your mind or resolve to do certain practices and to keep focused on the practice. So like the determination or the resolve to practice meditation for a period of time without giving up, or to finish the chanting or listen to a Dhamma talk without getting up, moving away or whatever. This is what we call adhitthana parami, or the determination to keep precepts, or to get up at a certain time. There's so many ways we apply our mind, but it's what we call adhitthana parami, making resolves and sticking to them. Metta parami, developing goodwill for ourselves, for others. And upekkha parami, the hardest of all probably, is to maintain evenness of mind as we experience different things through this retreat. We experience some pain or tiredness, negative mind states, some difficulties, interruptions, distractions, maintaining equanimity through it all, maintaining equanimity through your own ups and downs of your own mental states, your own personality, who you are, and your own body, and your age, and your health, all these things. maintaining equanimity. All those 10 paramis are being developed at the same time, all being nourished out of this wholesome state of mind that you're developing, where you're inclining towards the good and inclining towards these 10 qualities. The Buddha, or Buddhists, since the Buddha, have talked a lot about parami, and the Buddha, I think, talked more about them in his previous lives as a bodhisattva, the qualities he was perfecting towards enlightenment. But they're a very useful way of reflecting on your practice. What are you doing as you practice? You're developing these 10 different qualities. And as long as you're putting effort into the practice, then little by little these qualities are coming up. So again, like the sun on the lotus, awakening the lotus, one's parami are growing the more that you incline your mind towards the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma. Little by little, it's coming into fruition. It's coming to blossom, to bloom, to blossom like flowers in the sun. And you can see from contemplating the 10 parami, there's many aspects to the mind that we develop together. It's not just one thing. There's not one particular technique, although we do use techniques, say like anapanasati is a meditation technique many of us use, and we may become skilled in it. But these 10 paramis are developing together as we practice. So the techniques are only one part of it. The sila is one part of it, the dana is one part of it, the samadhi is one part of it, the wisdom parami, the insight and understanding we gain is one part of it. So all these different qualities are being cultivated, growing together. And the result of that is a mind progresses in the Dhamma, becomes brighter, more peaceful, and clearer, free from the causes of suffering, little by little. They say somebody who keeps practicing, whatever the obstacles may be, is somebody who is making parami. And these different qualities, the dana, the sila, the bhavana that we cultivate, they become part of who we are. So they say someone practicing the Dhamma, they develop parami, and that these parami, they don't fade easily. It's one way you might measure your practice. How easily do you lose these wholesome states of mind, these wholesome qualities during your day, during your life? Does your mind become easily angered? Does your mind, when you get tired, give up doing good, practicing mindfulness? Do you lose interest in the Dhamma? Does your faith wane when you meet with obstacles and difficulties? Say you get ill, do you give up on the practice, or do you adapt the practice to a time, say, when you're physically ill? When you have problems with other people in your family or at work, does that lead you to give up on the practice? Or do you incorporate that problem into your practice and use the parami and use that problem to help understand better how to practice? Use your wisdom, use your mindfulness, maintain your sila when other people are giving you a hard time, and so on. We learn to keep practicing through the obstacles, not to give up. And that's like maintaining parami, developing parami. Parami will come to the foreground when obstacles arise. When we're tested by life, the parami are there to fall back on. They say somebody with great parami, they've maybe develop many qualities from past lives. So when they're born, a lot of those qualities are already there, present, and they start to show themselves as they grow up. Other people have to start maybe from scratch, from a place where the paramis are not well developed, and we just have to be very humble and patient and keep cultivating the practice This is why we use the word practice. It's about repeatedly applying the Dhamma to our lives, repeatedly coming back to the teachings, reminding ourselves why we practice and how to practice, and then putting effort into maintaining sila, practicing dana, developing mindfulness, practicing meditation on a daily basis, say, would be the best. All the time bringing up strength of mind, as in barami, to deal with problems. Not to give in to the unwholesome states of mind, not to cling to them, not to identify so strongly with them, but to develop the ability to let them go and replace them with wholesome states of mind. This is barami. When you're in a situation that you're tempted to become angry, your barami kicks in or doesn't. Do you preserve your precepts in a situation when you're provoked by someone else? Do you restrain your own anger? Do you watch what you say, watch what you do, for example? That's barami. If we give in to our anger and take it out on other people through our words, our deeds, act in more selfish or harmful ways, we're obviously not developing barami, we're losing barami at that time. The barami are qualities that we keep cultivating until they become firm in merit, firm in barami, so that whatever life brings us, we can practice through it. Much of the Buddha's teachings on this process of training the mind, practicing towards liberation, he's always bringing us back to see that there are karmic obstacles and problems we have to go through, but not to give up. And barami might mean not giving up, not giving in to the problem, the obstacle, but just to keep going. And a mind with barami, a mind with merit is like that. It keeps going, learning from experience, being willing to learn, being willing to put up with the difficulties with a higher goal, the goal of liberation. So we have to keep coming back to our faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. That's where we get a lot of our strength from. And again, it's barami. If your faith is not easily shaken, even when you meet with obstacles, then you've always got a chance to progress and practice in the Dhamma. So I'll just say this much this morning, and we can spend the rest of the period in quiet meditation.